Today's Instagram Live will be with As the Historian. Hopefully, third time lucky, we'll get this right. So, As the Historian, who is the founder of Historyun.com, which is an online educational platform offering courses, seminars, and he reviews books on authentic Islamic history. So, hopefully, As will be able to connect. I did try to connect on his platform, which was working, but for some reason, um, we wasn't able to connect on my platform the last two occasions. So yeah, third time lucky. Hopefully, it says As isn't able to join. What the heck is going on? Okay, so I think Salam alaikum. I can see. Oh, finally, third time lucky.
You can see my
We got there in the end. How are you, Akhi?
Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invite. It's AZ, by the way. AZ.
A-
AZ.
it's AZ. It's not As. Oh, I do
Yeah,
apologize.
yeah.
AZ. AZ.
Abu
AZ like the rapper.
Let's not go there. Let's not go there.
MashaAllah, AZ, okay, AZ. Okay, just for the benefit of people that are joining, I mean, I've given a very brief intro, but do you mind, giving a quick elevator pitch, introducing who you are and the work that you do? We can dive into the subject matter at hand.
Yeah. My name is AZ Abu Zakaria. I am a public historian. I have been, if you know of a channel called Elm Film on YouTube several years ago, I was behind that. I was also behind the Islamic History Institute. And I'm currently working on a new project, Historyun, which is a new website, a new app for online history, but a community of Muslim enthusiasts when it comes to history. So my work effectively is in history, contemporary and classical.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. And we first met, and I can't remember how many years ago we went to Hajj together. Do you remember what year that was? I can't even remember. It's not a test. This one.
2011.
What year ago was that?
2011. 2011.
Subhanallah. Oh wow. Yeah, so many years ago we performed a Hajj together, and then we reconnected a few years ago when with his previous platform, Ilm Film. Um, Great platform. Is again, I definitely recommend people to not only check obviously Historian, but follow the brother's Instagram page and the great work he's doing. A number of like excellent documentaries. And again, obviously, we'll talk a little bit more about the Historian platform, and he's also given me a lot of advice behind the scenes in terms of helping me set up my online platform. So I definitely appreciate I appreciate his advice because a lot of people maybe wouldn't be as forthcoming. So I just wanted to kind of say that publicly and just, Jazakallah khairan for your advice that you've given me personally and for other people. But into the topic matter at hand, I know you did briefly mention Historian, but just for the layperson, what what are some of the benefits of someone like enrolling? Actually, I didn't actually mention that. How does someone enroll in Historian? Is it like a free platform? Is it subscription based? Do you mind kind of breaking that down? Because we know you've got the YouTube page, which has got some videos, but if someone wanted to be a student, how would they enroll? Can you go through that process, please?
Yeah, I mean, Historyun, just to explain what Historyun is to begin with, and I make a bit more sense, is history unlimited. History unlimited, but there's a play of words. Historyun is like Arabic, kind of Historyun. Effectively, for the last decade, we've been on YouTube publishing content, documentaries, films, debates, various contents. And YouTube's censorship has kind of really made it difficult to convey history the way we want to convey it going forward. So we decided to make our own platform, go offline, create something different, create a community of people who actually want to learn history, real history, not just history that is safe history online, but also to have a community environment, because oftentimes history is not the most popular topic. So having a community of people who are like-minded, who have enthusiasm, who have an interest in learning history is an added bonus. So Historyun, a community, is something that started this year. Something that really, to be honest with you, I think was necessary at this point in time. We're looking at Gaza, we're looking at the state of Muslims around the world. And oftentimes we'll ask, how did we get here? You have to look back. You need to look back and see how we got here. You need to look at the trajectory of events. You need to look at the the history, effectively, both contemporary, but also classical history. So the community effectively is a subscription-based community where for $10 a month you join. You receive at least 4 to 5 hours worth of content every single month. So currently we're actually on a 2-week cycle. Every 2 weeks we have a lecture. It's live, it's group focused, there's interaction. I mean, without exaggerating, without kind of, I guess, blowing my own horn, it is a unique experience. And those who are part of the community can tell you that. We receive regular feedback from them. So it's in a way a community of people. More than a course, I don't describe it as a course. I describe them as experiences. Each lesson is an experience. Cinematic experience, it's an intellectual experience. It is an experience. And as a team, it's a small team, we really do our best to make sure that this is above and beyond what you would expect from the traditional course online. Yeah, it's above and beyond that. And the objective really is 2 things. Number one, to enable people to have access to proper sources, real historical sources. And number 2, to understand the world they live in today. Because if you don't learn the lessons of yesterday, you will repeat the same mistakes tomorrow, inevitably. And so this cycle wherein we see the same events happening again and again, we see the same telltale signs, the same triggers happening all over again, we don't seem to learn our lesson, you know? So you need to look back and see what happened 50 years ago when you talk of Palestine, what happened 100 years ago. 2 of the main courses that I teach personally are on the contemporary history, something known as shadow history. Shadow history tracks the events in the Muslim world from 1900 to 2000, year by year, country by country, group by group, event by event. So it's a literal itinerary of events for 100 years. And I go through the students. We have over 100 students right now. We study each year in depth. And then we have a timeline. So they have a comprehensive understanding of what the geopolitical situation, the social situation, the economic situation of the major countries. So currently we're studying 51 countries in the Muslim world, and we're going through. So that's one subject, shadow history. The second course, or the second module, is the Umayyad Kingdom, which was the first kingdom or dynasty in the Muslim world, in the history of Islam, in fact, which was founded by Muawiyah radiallahu anhu in the 1st century of Islam. So we study that because that's the closest thing we have to the current situation we're living through today, Muslims. Combining this to the 1st century of Islam and the current century, the last century of Islam, you have very good balance of old and new. And hopefully between that, you know, we can also discover a bit more insightful analysis and study of the history of Islam. Is quite honestly, I would say right now, if you feel helpless, you feel you don't have a direction as to how to help, how to support, educate yourself. That's how you can support the Ummah. That's how you can support humanity. You educate yourself, lift the burden of ignorance from your shoulders, and understand how the world works. You know? So history for us is effectively one of the means by which we're going to help people ameliorate, elevate, and hopefully affect change in the world. You know, positive change, that is.
Thank you. No, thank you for that.
I should also add that YouTube is still available, but it's not it's no longer a primary platform. It's just there because we want to keep that channel going. All of our main content, as I said, 4 to 5 hours easily every single month. So there's no shortage of content, but it's all in our private community, which is like a private website, Historyun.com. And we've also got an app coming this month, which will be the first app ever committed to history for the Muslim tradition ever. And that app is effectively, for me personally, is an evolution in how we utilize social media. Because many of us operate through social media and we are reliant upon algorithms and third-party software to enable us to reach our audience. And so having been banned, having been shadowed, all of that, I was eventually tired of that. I said to myself, we have to move forward with this. We need to be self-sufficient. We need to be proactive. We need to own our own platforms. We need to move forward with full ownership and no longer rely upon third parties, because eventually what happens is once your message reaches a certain audience and has a certain impact, you can be shut down. And we've seen that, you know. We reached over 160,000 subscribers. And then suddenly things were being taken off. So Historyun effectively is a space to go if you want to real history, no restrictions, and real conversations effectively.
No, thank you. Actually, there's a couple of things that you said I wanted to pick on. I wanted you to elaborate. But again, just for the benefit of people, I've seen people joining since you've spoke. So I'm speaking to AZ the Historian, who is the founder of Historyun.com, which is an online public community platform offering not courses, offering an experience
Mhm.
on authentic Islamic history or authentic Muslim history, tracing back to like primary sources. He's got an online, like I said, platform of students from around the world who engage. So it's not just a case of watching pre-recorded lectures or talks on different parts of Islamic history. It's he has documentaries produced by himself and his team. There's obviously lectures and talks by qualified individuals, as well as a platform where for their students can interact amongst each other. And ultimately, I think dissect some things which have happened in the past and contextualize it and make it applicable and understand it for current day audiences and current day problems. Because, like AZ said, many of the issues that have happened in the past. Or many of the issues that we're going through now has happened in the past. So I definitely do agree with you on that and the importance of not only Muslims speaking about history authentically, but also owning our own narrative. You mentioned and you spoke about like obviously you was originally on YouTube, you are still on YouTube, but now you're kind of primarily having your own kind of platform with your website and your subscription model. Why is it important for Muslims in particular to own our own narrative and build our own platforms rather than relying on like the YouTubes, the Instagrams of this world? I know you touched upon it that you've got a subscriber, you've got 160,000 people on your YouTube subscribers, but some people will look at like that's great, that's a success. Why don't you continue to build on YouTube? Why are you now trying to um, build your own platform? Can you expand on that a little bit, please?
Yeah, I mean, it's understanding the terrain you work in. You need to understand the environment you operate in. YouTube is an amazing platform. It is the premier, the most powerful, and the most accessible platform for conveying a message if you want a public audience, because it's powered by Google. It's a search engine, effectively. You can search on YouTube or Google, and you can get a YouTube video on whatever you want to look for. You can't do the same for Facebook or Instagram. So it is definitely the best place to position your content for a wide audience. However, over the last couple of years, they have been restrictive in many ways. One of the ways which make it difficult for content creators to actually get a message across consistently is the algorithm, which favors at certain times certain keywords, which disfavors other keywords, but more importantly, the community guidelines, which the censorship is crazy on YouTube. It's crazy. And it's not just content creators, even people commenting on videos find their comments being deleted because a certain word was utilized. Right? So personally, I am a very proactive individual. I don't wait for people to help me out. I don't want people to feel sorry for me. I don't think it's a conspiracy against Muslim content creators because they've given us, we have Muslim content creators with million subscribers. So it's not that they hate my content. It's just that currently they have other priorities. And my content or my field of interest is not within that prioritized group. And so I'm seeing across other channels, history-based channels, the same pattern of videos being demonetized, being taken down, views being reduced. And so in May last year, 23, I had to make a very difficult decision, which was, do I continue doing this by feeding this machine with content that is valuable? I'm taking hours and spending thousands of pounds investing on equipment, studios, lighting, script writing, research, to put a video up there for it to be shadow banned. It's insanity. And so I decided to take everything off YouTube, deleted all the videos. The channel was effectively dead for 6 months. And I decided, let me create something different. It's a challenge. What can I do by myself without the support of a third party? And eventually I did a lot of research, looked around at other models, and I discovered actually you can do it yourself. Web 3.0 is what currently is helping many people who are thinking ahead create their own avenues. Web 3.0 is when you own your own audience, you own your own ecosystem, the community is yours, and you have direct access with no algorithm. So over the summer, I started building, looking, investing. It's quite expensive to invest in your own platform. But I'm seeing the return today that I could not have imagined possible last year. With 160,000 subscribers, I could not imagine possible. I have direct access to my audience. At any time I feel like it, I can post something in the group. I've got various different groups and platforms, and I can see that they can see the message. There's no algorithm required. Likewise, they can receive, they can communicate with me directly. Right? So it's an authentic experience And although the numbers are far less than what I'm used to on YouTube, the connection is far more real. I can feel the connection. I can hear them talk to me. I can interact with them. Right? I can get to know them. They get to know me. So, and I've done a bit more studying around this area. And I'd advise yourself, for example, and anyone doing content online, be community focused. Forget the numbers. Forget the trivial aspect of subscriber counts. This means nothing. You want a community of people, even if there are 10 people out of 1,000 subscribers that are serious and want your content, create a space for them where it's safe to convey information and exchange ideas, where it's safe. Not a space where tomorrow they could wake up and everything's been taken off. You know, there's a channel that, a very famous channel on YouTube, London Real, one of the first podcast platforms, London Real. Brian, he had like 2.6 million subscribers, right?
Yeah, Brian Rose, is that?
Everything was taken off. Brian Rose, yeah. London Real. Podcast, the guy does the podcast, right? 2.6 million subscribers, suddenly everything is gone.
Oh, was it YouTube that took it off? I thought I was wondering what happened to him. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They didn't like his message, right? And he recently did an interview or podcast with another content creator who is talking of creating a platform where you own the relationship rather than the subscriber counts, direct communication. And even if you're being taken off a platform, you still have that connection with your audience. And so that's where I think what I'm trying to build now is very important, not only for myself, but for anyone. I've spent years cultivating, collating, curating, building a community or something online. You need to think of off-platform solutions because eventually it's going to lead us there, right? We're going to end up in a place where if you say something people don't like to hear, it's not politically correct for that era, for that year, for that month, you can be stricken off with no notification, with no recourse. So that's what created that desire for me to create something offline. And ever since, I have been preaching the Quran, not the gospel, the Quran, of building for yourself. And I believe it actually, above and beyond social media following in communities, it's a mental state of being that we need as human beings. Not to be reliant on systems built by others. To work on building for self. Right? And I called it myself digital hijrah. We made hijrah from YouTube. We went to Medina. Right? Medina is different. It's going to be difficult at the beginning, but you acclimatize yourself to it and you build something there that is far more organic and will last far longer. And so I think it's a good challenge. You know? People have said to me, you've got 160,000. You gave all of that up to create something with 1,000 people or so. I said, yeah. These are 1,000 real people. In real life, Brother Habib, in real life, to have 50 people sit in your living room and listen to you, that's an event, isn't it? 50 human beings. Imagine 50 lives being put on pause to listen to a message you have to give. But social media, I believe, has warped our perspective in that it's only 10 people, it's only 3 people, because we don't see them, we don't feel the interaction, so it's belittled. With my own platform, those 3 people matter a great deal. When I upload the video now, I know I'm not going to reach more than 100 people when I upload the video. I know it's ready because of the limitation of the student subscribers, but I know that each view is genuine. It's a real view. There's a human being behind who actually went through the motion of logging in, pressing play, listening, taking it in, and they value what I put out there. So it's no longer a matter of numbers, it's a matter of value add and value received. So that's a short summary. I can go on for because I believe genuinely, no matter where you come from, I believe we have built this entitlements. We believe we're entitled to an audience if we're online, or we're entitled to having access to certain resources because life has been so easy for too long. I'm not entitled to a single viewer on YouTube. I don't pay YouTube to host my content. I've had 10 years of free content hosting. I'm paying for it now, and I know how much it costs to pay for it now. They've given me 10 years. They've given me 10 years. So I don't blame them, but I've come to realize I have become too reliant upon other systems and far too entitled. Far too entitled. They owe me nothing. But when you build for yourself, something else develops within you. Resilience, resourcefulness, and more importantly, self-belief. I've done this. I could do this. What else can I do? Let me try something else. Right? The idea that you can do something for yourself, you can build for yourself, you can carry your own, it's far more rewarding than a YouTube plaque. I've got YouTube plaques here. They mean nothing. But when I look at my statistics and also the revenue, I'm generating revenue with no ads. Is another, you could say, it's another confirmation that, wow, you can do this. So there are many things that could come out of it, and I think would be of benefit to anyone. Most of all those online, creating content. It's very important. Be self-sufficient and think beyond these spaces, because eventually you can be unplugged at any time. It's possible that can happen to you as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, just for the benefit of people who've joined the last few minutes, I'm speaking to AZ, the historian, who is a UK-based historian and also the founder of Historyun.com, which is a public online platform which offers not courses, but an experience, an interactive experience for history enthusiasts on authentic Muslim history. He's spoken about his journey making digital hijrah from YouTube to creating his own platform on his own website. He's got a subscription-based model. He also gives good advice to many people, myself included, on how to monetize your online content, and knowing the difference and understanding the difference from the way these different social media platforms work, especially because a lot of us in this day and age, we are I won't say deluded, but we kind of focus on subscription count or the number of viewers that a particular video may have, whereas he's speaking about the value that you can have, and also how you can, which I want to talk a little bit about later, about the difference in terms of the different revenue streams or financial models in terms of working for or having your content on a platform like YouTube as opposed to having your own subscription based model. So yeah, just speaking to AZ the historian again, please check out his work. He's obviously you can check him out on Instagram. And obviously he's got his website, Historyun.com, Historyun.com, and obviously you can check out some of his videos on YouTube, but they're not the full videos. If you want to access his full videos, you need to sign up to his subscription platform on his website, which is only like $10 a month, which is about what, £8 UK pounds or something like that. So really cheap. And again, you've got full access to him, his other qualified educators, and online community of other historian enthusiasts. So AZ, I wanted to touch. You did mention about revenue, because I mean, I know the question, but again, just for the benefit of people listening, I'm assuming this isn't a charity that you're doing. Is it something? Can you make money from this, or not only you, but someone? Because I think one of the things that a number of things that when I speak to people who are like content creators or in a podcast space, they rely on these external platforms because they think obviously you can attract a wide audience, and their vision is they get to a certain subscription number, and then they can attract money by advertising or by sponsorships and things like that. Whereas what you're posing is radically very different. So can you explain very high level, like, can you make more money going your own route as opposed to relying on others to kind of fund you? And if so, like, if not, like, if you can't, what's the benefit of from a financial perspective, like building your own platform, especially if someone was looking at, like, they want to make money from this, from their expertise and experiences?
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly make money per view. Click per views on YouTube. That's the language, right? Click per view, CPM, click per mil, per 1,000 views. On average, I guess the channel you have the content, the niche you're in, $5, $6 per 1,000 views, and YouTube gets a cut of it. So I mean, do the maths. How many views do you need to have to make $1,000? We're looking at millions, right? How long does it take to make a video that will attract millions of views? And how long will it take for that million views to materialize? The numbers don't really favor most content creators. Some people can pull off 1 million views every single upload. That's fine. But the majority of us, we don't have that kind of pull factor, right? So making money online through YouTube is very difficult and very unreliable, because you don't know when they will favor your video, when you'll be enabled to monetize. And even if you do monetize a video, you can be demonetized as well. It has happened to me various times, and others I know. You can be making certain revenues, and then suddenly something in the video triggers the algorithm and it's demonetized. So it's like a blind sort of income that you're not sure whether tomorrow can still be valuable. Working on your own platform, creating your own services, creating your own line of product is far more lucrative and it's far more safe. It's safer for you because you have control of the communication line between yourselves, typically by email. You can also promote what you want to promote directly. You don't have to rely on an algorithm to promote. But also more importantly, once you have that connection with your audience or your client base, you can continue to develop that, to cultivate that. And it doesn't take 1,000 subscribers for that to happen. You can begin from day one. You can begin from day one. You have to have a website, you have to have a product proposition, value to add. You can begin from day one. And so I feel that it removes the restrictions that you find on YouTube. But also, again, it's about psychology, right? If I'm relying on YouTube to monetize me, if I'm relying on YouTube to expose my product, if I'm relying on YouTube to promote me, I'm relying a bit too much on a third-party platform, quite frank, clients. And with that much level of reliance on somebody else, you're going to be disappointed at some point. It's inevitable. But if you begin by doing for self and working with what you have and striving to build your own, not only do you reap your own rewards, but also you get to develop that self-sufficiency that you're going to need later on. You know, you're going to need it later on. So it's more important for me to advise others to work for themselves by, you don't have to start off straight away with a website. You don't have to do that. You have Patreon, for example, which you can alongside your YouTube channel and have a Patreon. There are many ways to monetize. You don't have to start straight away the way I've done it. I've had 10 years in it, so it's been actually quite a learning curve. You can begin with Patreon, create videos on YouTube, link it to Patreon, but don't be too reliant on YouTube because Google is a business and a business has to make money. And at any point, if that money-making scheme does not include what you're promoting, you'll be left, you may be demonetized. You can't blame them. So for me, it's all psychology. It's all psychology, yeah. Just be reliant on yourself or aspire to be self-reliant and don't wait to be monetized or to be promoted because you're not entitled to any of that. You're not entitled.
Your background's in finance, right? And you work in finance.
Accounting all the way.
Accounting,
business.
Yeah. So because of that, I mean, I've similar background as well. Do you think that's what's giving you an advantage or an understanding of, even though you're preparing, you're like a creative, you're preparing content, but you also understand numbers, you understand money, you understand business? Because I think what I find is a lot of people that when they go into these like content creation, it's usually from a place of passion, like a passion project, but then they don't think about financially, like the potential monetization routes that they can make, kind of thing. So I'm just wondering, your background, do you think that's helped not only you even building a successful online platform on YouTube, but then being able to do that digital hijra where you can now make that pivot and still be successful and continue to grow? Because again, like, what you're saying, I agree with it, completely. And again, we've spoken about this previously offline. You've given me the same advice, but upon reflection, when I've relayed some of what you've told me to other people, I think where a lot of people are maybe quite hesitant from doing their own thing is maybe, yes, they don't have the self-belief which you spoke about. But then I also thinking also it's because maybe you've come from a background where you understand numbers. So like you said, you understand it's not a case of some of these platforms like Google having an agenda against Muslims. It's just business. And if something doesn't make sense from a financial perspective, they're not really going to include you. So having that even mindset and that experience, do you not think that's, because I'm just wondering, for people who haven't got that experience, maybe they might need someone like yourself, like a consultant, to kind of help them, or a mentor to help them understand the business and why because again, some people, when it comes to business, they don't want to hear about anything to do with numbers and things like that. So for those people, do you offer like maybe some consultancy services or some advice, like if they wanted, like they've got an idea but they're struggling, how do they make that digital hijra? Is that something that you potentially could offer?
Everything is psychology, brother. Everything is psychology. Everything is psychology. If you have the right mind, state of mind, nothing is impossible. Everything is psychology. Yes, I work as a finance professional, and my psychology changed when I took on a new role in a massive corporation about 10 years ago. It was an American corporation, and typically I'll take on the roles, for example, accountant, senior accountant, whatever, employee. I was an employee on the payroll. When I joined this American corporation, my job description was consultant. So I was sitting and thinking, consultant, what is that, consultant? That sounds a bit, I'm not an employee, I'm a consultant. And I started thinking, so my relationship with this business is not one of an employee, it's one of an expert who gives advice to another corporation and makes money. Okay. That changes everything. Because now I'm not an employee, I've got a client. I've got a client. I've got one client. If I can make, I'm a business. So when I started thinking that way, I realized that actually we're all giving away precious knowledge and information because we believe in our minds we cannot survive unless somebody gives us a pay slip every 4 weeks. That's the model we've been indoctrinated. You can have a PhD who knows a lot about a specific field. He doesn't think of making money off his own knowledge and experience any other way except through employment. And that limits him. And that's why I've always said to people who have knowledge, continue working, but build another income stream. Because you have all the attributes, all the qualifications, and all the that you could easily draw a crowd of 10 people, 20 people, 30 people. You can make money. And I've seen it in my own experience. People have come to me, and Allah's my witness. They've got institute online right. That's because we had a conversation. I said, what are you doing sitting here? Talking to me about a pay slip and a job. The economy is hard, I know, but listen, if the only way you've learned to make money is by going to a specific building to work for somebody else, then yeah, you've limited yourself. Right? And again, as somebody in the finance field, I can see how organizations operate from a financial perspective. It's nothing more than team structures. That's all it is. You organize resources to achieve a certain goal, and you make money of it. You monetize it. Right? And in the economy we live in today, much of that information is intangible. It's knowledge. It's not physical product. It's knowledge based. So if I can do it in this building, why can't I do it outside the building, right? And so that's what shifted my mentality. I said I could make the same kind of money. In 2019, during the pandemic, I decided to quit my job, right? I resigned. In the middle of the pandemic, 1920, I resigned. And then the challenge was, all right, if I resign now, in this economy, how do I make money? It was a challenge. I decided to take my passion, which was history, and profit from it. And that was the first time in 10 years I even considered monetizing what I was doing online. I had never considered it before. I was forced by market forces to actually do something, created a course, published it, found business partners. Guess what? People are willing to pay $200, $300 a month to learn from me. Really? I've got 10 people. If I have 100 people, what does that mean to me? Once you make your first dime of your own back, there's no going back. That's it. Once you've sent an invoice in your own business name and you've made money, you can't go back. That's it. You've now been converted, right?
Yeah.
It's now a question of scaling. That's what it is. It's a matter of scaling. Once you've got that mindset, it's like the analogy I give people is, look, a lion who has been kept in a cage all its life and fed through the cage bars, knows the schedule, knows the routine, knows even the person feeding them, and knows the menu. When you open the cage, they're not going to want to go because they're going to be used to, how am I going to eat the next meal? Right? With a lion with experience in the wilderness, you can't cage them because they're used to going and getting. Right? They're used to that. So that cage for us is psychological, and it's as follows: get a degree, establish a career, until you retire. That is it. Right? So we've been conditioned, and we've accepted the conditioning. You can be as qualified as you like, because believe you me, there are people who have PhDs in history. I don't have a PhD. They couldn't dream of even beginning to create a business without the help of some sort of organization for themselves. They couldn't dream of it because the mental state is that it's not possible. But you have a new economy, a creator economy. People have realized, wait a second, I can actually make money offline. I can actually, if I can't match it, I can actually exceed. Right? So when I quit my job in the middle of the pandemic, I said to myself, I'll give myself 6 months to continue creating content. Okay, but I'm going to give all my effort to it because time is money. I can't create content and not get any money out of it. If I cannot reach at least 10% of my salary in that period of time, give up. Focus on something else. I need 10% of my salary from this business. In 2 months, I already had like half, reaching like half of my salary through the business. And at some points during that year, I exceeded my salary coming from the business. Literally. I'd be sitting thinking to myself, subhanAllah, I don't have to look at my face. That's just like, this is coming in. I don't need to look at that anymore, right? And once you're used to that, you can't go back mentally. It's impossible to go back to the old model. Right? And I would say to those listening right now, the economy we live in right now is so unstable. It's so unstable. For you to rely on one income only is almost like, it's like financial suicide, because at any moment that can be pulled away from you. Right? And you have no way, the psychology isn't there to go and build a business when you're under duress, psychological duress. You can't begin building a business when you're actually looking for a job. Right? So dig your well. Start now. Begin small, expand, grow. And by the way, part of the program that I'm providing as Historyun is there's a tier, which has already been filled anyway, of 10 people, 20 people, mentored by myself. Mentoring involves showing you the back end of social media, how it works. How do you monetize? Even today, I had a conversation with one of the students about monetizing his own program, right? Because I want to see people actually, I want to see you succeed in this field. I want to see you take your knowledge, your passion, your ambition, make money of it. I know it's possible, right? I want to see you. So the group itself, the community, is not just about learning history, it's about how to profit from your passion. And I'll end with this. Hyperbole, a human being that has been put on earth has a knowledge, has natural talent that they have that other people are willing to. Human being has that within them. Whether you find it or not, that's up to you. If you do find it, whether you give it away for free or you put a premium, it's also up to you. There are people who give it for free. I say, look, continue doing that. So long as you complain later on that you're doing all this work, investing back. If you want to continue giving for free, do that. I would tell you, put a premium on it. Even if it's $1, you need to value yourself, and you need people to validate you by saying, I'm willing to give part of $1 to get what you're giving. You need a psychological shift. So it's all psychology for me. I think, quite frankly, the less people do it, the better it is for people like me, because there's no competition, right? The less people think like that, keep going. Keep making content for free, putting it on YouTube for free, crying about the algorithm. Keep doing that. You keep doing that. In the meantime, I'm building a business. I'm making money. I've got a community. And if YouTube shuts me down tomorrow, what can I do about it? It's not a problem. Right? So the psychology, I think the psychology is really the main thing here. How you see yourself, first of all. And secondly, are you willing to take the risk to go beyond the cage and to think for yourself, how can I make money? Yeah. So that is, from my perspective, what made it easier. I'm a consultant, so I'm consulting the business. Fair enough. I'm no longer an employee. A second business, a third business. What difference does it make? And on that note, I'd actually like to say, same thing with you. I think I've been following your book series from the very beginning. Right? And I have them at the back here. It's again. I think this is really an amazing initiative. And the series of books you've published, I've got all of them, most of the main ones. What I find interesting is that at the beginning you were publishing on a certain house, right? Certain publishers. You're publishing on certain publishers. And as time went on, it changed. It went to Rabah. I said, this guy has now realized the value of self-sufficiency. Yeah. He's realized at this point in his trajectory, he's realized, now I can do it myself. What is stopping me from making my own publication work? Why do I have to rely on a third party? It doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that I've graduated now. I've come to the point where I've realized I don't need somebody else to do it for me. I can do it myself. Right? And I'm sure you could speak on that. Publishing under somebody else and publishing yourself, the difference, even if you make less money, is what you gain as an individual. The psychology changes completely.
That's great advice. I'm like, no, what you're saying now, it's just There's so many thoughts running through my mind, but I agree with you 100%. I think so many people do need to hear that. And like you said, so even with myself, with publishing books, something that maybe I suffered from in the beginning, I think a lot of people, especially Muslims and black people that I do come across, is like this imposter syndrome, or this idea that you need someone else to validate you, to kind of even to kind of call yourself a consultant or an expert or an authority in anything. It's like a number of us, I think we feel that we need validation. It's usually from mainstream society or Western society, or like establishments to kind of like validate us. And I think that's also the case, especially with people who are thinking about writing books. So they might want to go with a publisher because then that publisher has kind of validated them, or legitimized them. And then, but then when I was actually looking at the money, I mean, my publisher had no qualms with them, don't get me wrong. But then I was looking at a lot of the publishing a book is one thing, marketing is something totally different. And I was doing a lot of the marketing and understanding the business, and I was just thinking, hold on, wait. And then after all of this, I'm only getting like the royalty, which is, again, it ranges between 5% and 15% of the recommended retail price of the book. So you're getting kind of like peanuts. And then I was thinking, okay, why can't I just do this myself? Again, take the risk in sense of, the printing costs and finding the editor. And I went with the same editor and typeset with my first. So the product was the same. The only difference was that I was funding it in the beginning, and then a lot of people, especially in this day and age, they don't know the difference between a self-published book and a book that's published really by an independent or world-renowned publisher kind of thing, because people don't look at the publisher, to be honest. But in some academic circles, there is this idea, because it's changed somewhat now, but before, if you publish your own material, it was considered to be like vanity publishing and wasn't taken seriously. So that's also why I wanted, and that's why when people do ask me about, publishing, or like they're thinking of writing a book, sometimes it depends on the person, but in some cases, it is good to go with a traditional publisher initially, see how the business works. And then if you feel that, oh, actually, hold on, wait, I've got ideas and book projects I want to put out. There's by no means, by all means, you can do it yourself. But initially, I did need that experience, to be honest, to go with under a traditional publisher. So I wouldn't totally write the same way. Like a lot of the experience that you've acquired is over like more than 10 years. So as much as someone could be inspired by listening to what you're saying, they will still need guidance, and it might be in the form of a mentor. It might be in the form of working under an establishment for a certain period of time for them to gain the confidence, for them to do it themselves. But I think having that, I loved what you said about the psychology, like in terms of having that idea that eventually I want to profit over my own experience or my own expertise. I definitely think that is something which many of us, especially Muslims and black people in particular, because I do find that we're very comfortable to kind of, for other people to pay us rather than to try and build our own our own. You're passionate about history. Have you always been passionate about history? And if not, what inspired you? Was any particular book or any lecture that inspired you to kind of be like this history buff, history enthusiast?
It began with books. So I was reading books, and typically I lend the books away. So I'd say, oh, I've read this amazing book about this person or this event. It's amazing, read it. And people would take the book and never return it. So I realized that it wasn't a good way of spreading information, because I'm losing books in the process, right? And I'm only reaching maybe one person at most. So I decided to summarize some of these learnings and put it online on YouTube and see what happened. That's how I began, really. Well, over the years, and when I began, by the way, one of the things I would hear recurringly was, it's never going to work. It's history. Who likes history? Islamic history. No one really cares about that. 10 years ago, it wasn't a big niche. And so at that time, it was nasheed. It was street dance. It was skits, comedy skits, and it was lecturing about deen, generally. These were the main categories you would enter if you want to be public and popular, which was never my intention to begin with, and never is today, to be honest with you. I don't care about numbers. But it was like a very small niche, and it was considered basically, it's not going to work, because who cares about this kind of topic, Islamic history? So I began that way, posting videos, and then I started learning how to edit. Another thing is I don't like to rely too much on others. So when I began, I was being told by other YouTubers, you need to hire an editor because you cannot research, script, narrate, edit, everything at the same time. You need to hire an editor. And if you know anything about editors, it costs a lot of money, as it should. It's very expensive. And so I said to myself, no, I can't. If I'm going to do this for the next 10 years or 3 years or however long it is, I cannot keep shelling out hundreds of pounds per video. I can't afford that. And furthermore, how do I develop as an individual if I'm always reliant on an editor? So I decided to learn how to edit. And over that period of learning, trialing, and testing, I developed certain skills, certain competencies, and I was able to actually be self-sufficient in creating content. As a content creator, is like a superpower. It's a superpower. It's like being a musician who can produce your own beats, create your own artwork, all right, and do your own business management. You will be unstoppable because you don't have to rely on others and their interests. So I began that way, and it's a passion. It is a passion because I believe history is underrated. It's oftentimes misunderstood. But more importantly, it is an area of study where you get to understand the psychology of man. I'm big into psychology. You understand the psychology of man. You learn the mistakes of people who came before. But also you get inspiration from those people. And it's a source of knowledge that never, ever expires because it's history. So by nature, it's always, as time goes on, it becomes more valuable because it's history. Whereas current events expire. 1 week, 2 weeks, and then the video is dead. You create another one, follow the next one, next trend. So it was just something that I still feel very strongly about. And particularly, I decided to focus on obscure topics, not to follow the popular topics, things that I know are going to make a lot of views because it's popular. Let's focus on the obscure topics. Let's talk about, for example, the Mali Kingdom, Sundiata Keita. Who's Sundiata Keita? Let's talk about him. Let's make a content about him. I did a course about him. Sundiata Keita. Let's look at the more obscure talked about. Let's make them visible again. Right? So, in effect, filling a gap of knowledge that is currently not being served effectively online. And the way I see it, the whole content creation process is actually archives. I'm just archiving online and in other places. In the future, somebody can come across a video that I did maybe 10 years ago. And by the way, I have had such tremendous feedback over the last 10 years. It'll be astonishing who's watching videos. Right? Astonishing. I create videos and I receive lots of books that I've cited. Send an email to say, can we please use your video as part of our exhibition, for example, right? Or to receive solicitations from publication houses. In the UK, there's one film company, a BAFTA award-winning film company, that sent a message to solicit our animation for some of their projects, right? For, it was Discovery Channel. And many, many other opportunities. So behind the scenes, when you see a video that has 100 views, you may think it's just 100 things. You don't realize what's happening behind the scenes, right? The connections you're building, the people who are watching, and the opportunities that open up. So it's been an amazing journey, and I'm only as passionate as I'm able to make sure that my projects come to life. If I know something is impossible, I just won't be passionate about it because there's no point pursuing a path that's not going to lead to anything. But so far, I've never come across something that I felt was too much, too big to realize. You know? So the passion, when you add money to it, come on. Passion and profits.
Yeah,
let's be real. Right?
Yeah.
It helps a bit. It helps a bit.
Yeah.
So, we live in interesting times, Habib. We're living in interesting times right now. I can put my phone on and reach people around the world. I can leave a print on the internet that somebody else around the world can actually discover 10 years from now. I can project my message, my voice, my opinions, my take on certain things, and others can receive it with no physical connection. That's an amazing time. I think everyone should have an access to a community to create something online that will leave behind, hopefully, a positive impact. But it's amazing time. So why not create something? Why not be involved? Why not be ambitious about it, what you're doing it? Why not build and then also benefit? Yeah.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Again, just for the benefit of people who've joined in the last few minutes, I'm speaking to AZ, the historian, who is the founder of Historyun.com, Historyun.com, which is an online public platform, educational platform, which offers seminars, interactive we could say workshops or experiences on authentic Islamic history from primary sources. It's more than just on. There are talks, documentaries by qualified individuals that have got a number of years of experience, as well as for students who join or history enthusiasts who subscribe to his platform. They would be joined by other historian enthusiasts, and they will talk about what they've learned and what they've studied, and how they can not only understand some historical events, but also how they can understand them in line with like current day issues. So definitely would recommend you subscribe to his platform and learn from some of the gems which he's given us today. And I personally have been a benefactor of AZ's advice for my own personal journey. So I'm definitely glad that he's been able to share some of these gems for the public. Because again, he's previously been the man behind the camera. It's only the last, I think, year or two. I think year or two he's kind of come out of the darkness and into the light, and given us, like I said, I'm really appreciative of the advice that he's personally given me, and I'm glad that he's continued to do the not only the work of history and making that available for people, but the entrepreneurial and the advice and the changing the mindset and having a psychology shift and trying to be more self-sufficient instead of relying on these public platforms. So I wanted to touch on, if you don't mind, I saw a couple of your videos on your YouTube about al-Muqaddimah. And I've noticed you speak about Muqaddimah quite a bit as part of your book club. But can you, just for the benefit of people who are listening, can you talk a little bit about what the Muqaddimah is, who the author is, and why you think, if it is, important book to understand Islamic or world history?
Yes, so the Muqaddimah, or the Adab Book Club, is something that I've decided to launch this year, or about 6 weeks ago actually. And I mean, I like books. So I typically would read something's fascinating, I take a snapshot of it and send it on my social media network. And then it kind of dawned upon me, why not have a book club, just have people come on and kind of, you can interact with their community and build a community of YouTube and give readings and certain passages. The Muqaddimah was one of the books that I felt combined various elements. So Al-Muqaddimah was written by Ibn Khaldun, who was a very, very famous scholar within Islamic tradition, but also a very famous mind in the world tradition. And he wrote, effectively, you could say, a treatise, an introduction to history. So the Muqaddimah, this book, is an introduction to historiography. And it's the first of its kind within the Muslim historical tradition. So I began there because it combines various disciplines, sciences, it's very dynamic, it's very controversial in certain areas. But it was an opportunity to read this book and to also participate in group thinking and interaction. So the Muqaddimah reading for the other book only being posted on various platforms, YouTube, Instagram even, but the main group is on Telegram. Again, it's off these platforms on Telegram. We currently have about 1,300 and regular discussions, exchanges, ideas, connections are being made. I believe it's important to read. One of the things we lack is the skill to be able to read. Reading is an important skill, it's a life skill. We're so used to just consuming flashing images and sounds. It's always, why don't you just post a video? No, read, learn to read. Right? Learn the discipline of reading, sitting down, looking at the text, processing it, and reading. It's not always going to be spoon-fed with images and sounds and graphics. Read. And so I personally want to contribute towards reviving the adab tradition. Adab in Arabic means literature, fine literature, but also means character. It also means comportment, how to behave. Adab, we're lacking that. So I think trying to revive that, the book club idea is not unique. There are others doing it, but I feel that within the historical space, nothing is happening. So an amazing space because there are many interesting people participating. We have changes, we have discussions, and we explore the Muqaddimah because it's one of the books that I feel will to the wider audience. There is economics, there is sociology, there is spirituality, there is statesmanship, there is religion, there is warfare, there is music, there is diet, nutrition, there is geography. He talks about so many things. And so by covering this book, first of all, they get to learn about the author, about the subjects covered in his book, but also to have a broader perspective on history. Not such a perspective of history, a broader perspective, and ultimately, hopefully, to get the reading bug, right? Because it's important, you know. I often say to the students and also to my children that the first thing Allah created was the pen. The first thing Allah created was the pen. And He told the pen, write. The last thing a human being will actually get to experience before entering paradise is what? Open the book. The books that you actually, your life is going to be in a book, right? The final action before you enter hell or heaven is to open that book. So in between the pen and the reading, that's the space in between. Your life reading what the pen wrote and what's going to end up in the book is an essential skill that has to be revived. We're too reliant again on films, documentaries, skits, shorts, YouTube. Get to read the book, open the book, read. And also when you have the skill of reading, many things change, because oftentimes the narrative that we are being fooled with is only possible because we don't read the fine print. We haven't cultivated typically the skill of reading with critical analysis, objectively. Right? We look for buzzwords, we look for triggers, and we react. No, read again in context. Those who are familiar with my posts on YouTube, they will know that oftentimes I'll post quite regularly on a daily basis, but I'll post certain questions, certain surveys, for example, last week I posted a post about Ali, Imam Ali, alayhi salam, and the comments exploded. Are you a Shia? I knew it. You're a Shia. I knew it. This had to come out one day. I knew you were hiding something. This is a Shia platform. Finally, the truth has been revealed, right? And the reality is, you don't read. It was to demonstrate that if you read the core text, Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, when they mention Ahl al-Bayt, they say alayhi salam, alayhi salam. In those texts, it's black and white. But because you don't read and you rely on videos and translation, yeah, of course, your mindset now has been completely warped to the point to which you feel need to attack others when you're confronted with the reality. Reality comes, you want to attack.
Yeah.
That was a small example. I said, look, that's one example. Imagine the rest you're not reading about. Imagine what you're not reading about. What you're missing out on. Imagine how your mind, your perspective is being stunted and limited because you don't read. You don't read. And when you read a book or you listen to a lecture, realize you're only listening to one perspective that was procured, conditioned, and presented the way you want to present it, not the way you should receive it. Right? So what you're receiving is not necessarily everything. The only way for you to get the full picture is to do what? You have to read. Right? You have to read. There's no way. You have to read. So an open is one that reads. Read. And read difficult books. Because sometimes people say the Muqaddimah is a difficult book, it's an old book. When you go to the gym, do you lift 1 kilogram weights or do you go for the 10 or 20? Right? Do you want to still remain at 1 kilogram for the rest of your life and want progress? Or do you go for the strenuous exercise that's going to develop not only endurance, but also resilience? Resilience. Yeah. So in short, the Muqaddimah is a weight. Because in the Muqaddimah, we discussed the other day, he talks very badly about black people. He talks about sub-Saharan Africans as animals, as people who are deficient of mind, and all types of horrible things. But I laugh, because I'm used to reading things that are not necessarily going to affect my worldview. So I'm not threatened, I don't feel offended. I'm already cultivating my mind to accept that certain things written about may not necessarily fit my worldview, so it's okay. I can still read it. I don't have to be offended by it. Right? So the Muqaddimah, as we cover it, we're going to cover these sorts of passages. And now, hopefully, people don't drop off because he's offended us, because he said something bad about black people. Cultivate resilience. Be resilient. Learn to read until the end. Don't just, whenever something doesn't appeal to your senses, throw the book away, move on to the next book. So.
And have you always had that attitude? I mean, I do agree with what you're saying, and I think it's definitely important, especially for people of faith, to be to get into the habit of reading, even reading some uncomfortable books or books that, because what I find is that in a number of, like, maybe you could say, how can I say it? I don't know. Well, I'll say it as is. I think as Muslims, I think generally people romanticize Islamic history or Muslim history, shall we say. And that's quite problematic. I understand, maybe if you're teaching, I don't know, children between up to age of like 10 or 12 years old, I can kind of understand that. But when you're speaking to adults, to romanticize the past, I just don't understand. I've never understood that. But you often hear that from in mosques, even like Islamic lectures, whether it's online and what have you. Islamic history is romanticized. So that's why when they come across a different viewpoint or something that sounds quite problematic, they don't know how to deal with it, especially if it comes from, if it's said by like a religious scholar, you know, and they'll be like, oh, this scholar wouldn't say such. Like, I always hear people will say, oh, a scholar wouldn't say anything racist, or a scholar wouldn't say such a thing that's demeaning to women, or a scholar wouldn't say, and it's just like, there are a lot of problematic things that people have said who are knowledge, but they're still scholars have said in the past, and or things that's happened in history. So how do you get, or how do you help people who have this, or maybe they've been somewhat infantilized, where they believe that, you know, everything was great, and they've got this very like simplistic mindset in terms of how the Muslim world was prior to colonization. How do you help them without kind of like destroying their faith, so to speak? Because I think that's what I found quite challenging, because again, like I said, I don't want to destroy some people's image of certain respected authorities, like religious authorities and things like that, because some people do have, especially in this kind of cancel culture era, where if someone says something that is racist or is misogynistic or what have you, they'll be like, I can't read this person. Whereas similar to what you said, I can read someone that I completely disagree with, and I don't have to take, you know, something that I disagree with, and I can still benefit from other things that he or she may have said. But I think the way a lot of people have been conditioned nowadays is that if someone is racist or says something that is somewhat racist or, you know, sexist, and all of a sudden this person's a bad person, I can't accept or, you know, benefit from anything this person may have said. So how do you help such individuals who've been conditioned to kind of like see Islamic history and be somewhat romanticized, and all our religious figures as being saintly in all aspects of their lives?
This is the boomerang effect, okay? The boomerang effect of going too far on one end, of painting an image of almost perfect, sinless human beings for far too long, actually, to be honest with you, far too long. Or at the very best thing, remain silent about the topic. Just don't talk about it. If it's controversial, just remain silent. There's no benefit to it. Well, eventually, at some point, somebody's going to come along and say, hey, guys, I found something in this book. And guess what? This happened. Wow. You know, Uthman radiallahu anhu burns Masahif. The initial response is not a lie. It's an Orientalist lie. It never happened. Okay, go and read the book.
Yeah.
Now, what do you say? Christ faith. Christ, no, because you haven't been conditioned. It's like as a child, you're inoculated. You may have to run this. Maybe a bit painful, but guess what? In the longer term, it's going to make you immune to certain diseases. You need a bit of pain sometimes to activate your system so that later on you'll be resilient and you could take on bigger challenges. So history for me is a great medium to do that, because sometimes you put something out there, it's like, wow, did that really happen? There must have been a reason for it. No, just power and, you know, ambition and jealousy sometimes, you know, and errors, human error. Doesn't mean throw everything away. It's a generational thing, you know. I think the generation that preceded us, they can find something that's not necessarily completely good or completely perfect, and they can fix it. They can mend it. They can patch it up, continue benefiting from that. We live in a cancel culture. It's like a throwaway culture. If there is one thing that is wrong, throw everything away. And I imagine living a life like that. Something goes wrong one day in your life, you throw the entire chapter away. That's a psychological problem, because that's why we have divorces. I have so many divorces, because one thing goes wrong, throw everything away. Right? Being able to not to finish, getting offended, outrage, shock even, but still reading is a sign of maturity. Not in every case. Obviously, I don't say don't read, but it's a sign of maturity. I can still Okay, I don't like that idea, but let me keep reading. I may find something different later on in the following chapters that may contextualize what he said here. Let me continue reading. I don't like it, throw it in the bin. Keep doing that and see what you end up with in the end. Right? A massive pile of things you throw away that you could not benefit from because you don't have the resilience or you don't have the maturity to continue reading, to continue exploring, to continue just keeping your mind open for a bit, and potentially later on. So for example, let's take a good example of this. Ibn Khaldun says black people are animals, or they're animalistic, they're simplistic, they're docile, they're just basically the lowest level of human being, all types of things in the first chapter. You could stop there and cry about it and post all over social media as a racist, blah, blah, fine. But if you kept reading, you would read that he also says the same about Arabs.
Yeah. Yeah.
About Slavs in Northern Europe, the whitest and palest. He talks about them being pale and white and blue eyes and blonde hair. He calls them animals as well. Does it make it right? No, but it contextualizes something. He goes on to mention that the curse of Ham is a false story, has no place in Islam, and he breaks it down logically. You could have benefited from that, but you stopped reading when you got offended. You could have benefited from what he said later on against Ham, which he rejects openly in through Israeli. And he goes for the logical steps. It cannot be possible that people are born inferior. So how do we explain what he's saying? If you kept reading again, you would understand that he mentions a sub-Saharan African who travels and lives in the Nordic regions, eventually becomes white. And somebody from that region, the white and blue eyes, who went to sub-Saharan Africa, eventually becomes black. The hypothesis is false, we know now, but it contextualizes his thinking. He didn't think black people are bad just because they're black. He said the condition they live in, the hot environment, the sand, has an impact on the human being. Likewise, the snow, the rain up north has an impact. So according to Ibn Khaldun, yeah, just change environments. That will change your composition. Again, it doesn't explain it in a scientific way that we accept today. It's not even necessarily acceptable, but it contextualizes something that he wasn't a racist as in you just black, that's it. He actually believed that living in sub-Saharan Africa made you black. And therefore, you know, and if you move, that would also reverse the order. So it gives a lot. And again, if you got offended from the first statement and you stopped reading, you would miss out context, meaning, and you could learn a lot. Because again, I learned a lot about the curse of Ham theory because it's very harsh. Al-Mas'ud, who was a preceding historian, makes it very clear black people are deficient of mind. They are naturally subordinate to slavery. They're just like that by nature. He considered it a natural and he justified it through the curse of Ham. Ibn Khaldun demolishes the entire premise and calls it a stupid, silly story. Something that most Muslims would be fearful of saying because a scholar wrote it. I can't say it's a stupid story because a scholar wrote it. In some tafsir, written there is in the tafsir, believe it or not. And so they don't want to call a scholar somebody who made a mistake. They'll say, okay, we can't say anything about it. No, it's a silly story. That's what it is, right? Ibn Khaldun, it's a silly story. It's okay. But if you got offended and you stop reading, you've lost that gem. You've lost that learning opportunity. You're going to go into another book and do the same thing there again, and you're going to miss other opportunities, other gems. So personally, I think it's a matter of resilience and maturity. Let's be mature. Let's be a bit mature. Okay, you're not going to read a book on earth written by man that will keep you happy throughout. You're going to find something in that book that's going to offend you, you're going to disagree with. You don't throw everything away. Learn to read a book. And I'll finish with this. I'll finish with this one here. I personally believe people who read books, who are able to read books, right, are genuinely people who are successful in life. The patience and discipline necessary to keep their mouth shut and to explore ideas that are not their own. That's what you're doing when you're reading, right? It's not a conversation. You're not talking. You're opening a book. Your mouth is shut, and you're listening, reading, and taking somebody else's ideas. And if you can do that for one book, 4 books, 3 books, that tells you something about your own personal disposition. You have the qualities necessary to succeed in other fields of life. Those who don't read books or complain it's too long or I don't have the patience for it, put them in a stressful situation where they have to think and listen and receive information, the likelihood of them starting that relationship is very easy because they're not used to that receptive mindset. I'm going to read the book. I'm going to even take notes. Let me take notes on that, actually. Let me take notes. Let me explore it. All right? So it gives you, this is why when we say somebody is literate, we don't necessarily mean they could. We mean they are, culturally speaking, they have comportments and they know how to present themselves. When we say somebody is illiterate and they can't read, it means they don't have the adab. In Arabic, it's adab. Like you have adab. You have comportments, you have decorum, right? It's connected to reading because it's something that is, you have to see the connection. It's there. Reading and then enacting and living life and having the sort of understanding how to speak to people, how to receive messages that you may not agree with, it comes with it. So for that reason, I think and I encourage as many people as possible to start reading. Start reading. Read difficult books. Don't read easy books. Don't read books that are just written to make you feel good about things. Read difficult books, right? And develop your mind such that you can read something that can offend you. The YouTube comments, and you don't have a meltdown because he said this, use that word. Subhanallah. What is this? Which is, where have we reached? Where have we reached? You know, sometimes I put a video and I'll put Islamic history, X, Y, and Z. Brother, change it to Muslim history. Islamic history is perfect. Muslim
I was good.
Because
Sorry,
for those who really want to attack you, it doesn't matter. Islamic, Muslim, Islamic, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, sorry, that was actually one of my questions I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you, is there a difference between Islamic history and Muslim history? Because some people have issues with either one of the terms, especially like Islamic history. Do you mind expanding on that in terms of like what some people say about? Because you actually answered my question, because some people say, don't say Islamic if you're going to talk about something bad because Islam is perfect, Muslims are not, blah, blah, blah. So you kind of answered, but you can expand a little bit about the way people, yeah, sorry, go on.
It's a desperate attempt. It's a desperate attempt. Because when we say something good, when we talk of the golden age of Islam, no one tells you golden age of Muslim. We don't say that. We don't claim, hey, it's not golden, it's the golden age of Muslims. We don't say that. We accept that when it's positive, the golden age of Islam and science. We accept that. Although in reality, if you study the history, it wasn't an Islamically driven. It was the Mu'tazili, the rationalist imperative, which in many cases tradition is anti-Islam anyway. If you look at the Mihna and what Imam Ahmed suffered. So it wasn't an Islamic thing. That is why you should say the Muslim golden age. That's when you should be making the distinction. But it doesn't suit your sensibilities and your objectives to say that you want to attribute it to Islam. So it's okay then. But if we talk of darker chapters between Muslims, now we have to make a distinction. For me, it's child's play, to be honest with you. It's nothing more than just being a bit, you know, those who want to attack you don't care whether you use Islam, Muslims, it's all the same thing anyway. Yeah. It doesn't make a difference. I've heard the argument before, Islam is perfect. We know that already. Whether I put on a thumbnail Muslim or Islam, doesn't make a difference. For me, it's as a term, because it includes timelines. So it's not just Muslim, Islamic from that perspective. So it's just it's a way of coping, it's a way of softening perhaps the narrative a bit. But maybe we need to be a bit more resilient. That's all the solution. Be a bit more resilient. And these minor petty issues should not be an issue.
That's the case, but just to make it clear for people, it's for everyone. It's not just for men and it's not just for Muslims, right?
No, it's for everyone. It's for everyone.
Yeah.
We have people from all over the world, all ages. I have people older than me, way older, beards are white, mashallah. I have people who are like 16, 17. You have people who are Muslim, the people who are not Muslim at all. You have men, mothers, you have fathers. It's for everyone. It's unlimited. I don't want to restrict it to just Muslims or practicing Muslims. It's one of the complaints that I receive most often.
Really?
You need to, no, it's not. I'm not teaching you religion. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm teaching you religion. You need to go somewhere where people are qualified to do that. History is a different department. It's within Islam, but it's a different department. So I'm not teaching you religion. And because I'm not teaching religion, I can be more objective. So for example, I don't teach about the Khulafa al-Rashidun. I don't cover the epoch of the first four Khulafa because that, as a Sunni Muslim, is part of creed. It's part of my creed. So I don't want to start making narratives that are apologetic. There were civil wars, Battle of Siffin, right? Historically speaking, you need to be direct and open. If you can't do that, admit you can't do that and move on. So, but don't mix the two of them, where you try to teach Islam through history, and then when you have to speak out, you don't want to speak out. Karbala, what happened between Yazid and Hussein? I want to be quiet about it. It's not history. It's propaganda. It's not history.
Yeah.
You're not doing us a service in that case, are you? Just hiding information. You're obfuscating in certain instances, and you're leaving people either confused or dissatisfied because they know there's something to be learned, but you don't want to teach them for fear of causing them to have a crisis of faith. So I'm very direct with it. I'm open. The good and the bad is covered, but only from the Umayyads onwards. That's why I cover the Umayyad period all the way down to the modern history, the Ottomans.
Yeah. I'm the same as well. I'm exactly the same as well. Like as in, from the Umayyad period, everything is fair game. The time of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the four rightly bad, I don't touch that. I'm not there. But everything else in terms of to really critically analyze, and obviously you can, but anything, I'm exactly. And I think it's important that you lay your stance from the beginning as well, because I think for a number of Muslims, they look at all of Islamic history as sacred. So the period of the Ottomans, the period of the Abbasids, the period of the Umayyads, as if it's the period of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And that's what people can't understand, or even some of the scholars who obviously are coming from these periods, they're not able to understand that they're speaking within a vacuum, they're speaking within a context. You need to understand what was going on. But they're thinking that they're speaking as if they're speaking in the era of Umar bin Khattab, and it's like, no, it's totally different. So it's also important to kind of break that down, especially when you might hear some certain rulings or certain things that are written in certain books that said in relation to whatever they were going through. And again, I think that's why you do need a definitely educated, like what you're doing. I think the work you're doing is fabulous. It's really important because I think that is where there is a lot of disconnects between a lot of Muslims, that we've romanticized Islamic history. Then when we come across some problematic event that's happened, whether it's by people who have got issues with, Islam or whatever, they're not able to, rebuff it, or it affects their faith because they think, like a fatwa from a scholar from the 14th century is the same as something which the Prophet ﷺ actually did. It's like it's two totally different things, and they think questioning the scholar or the scholar's legal ruling is the same as questioning something the Prophet, peace be upon him, did. It's totally different. And again, it's important. I mean, I found that myself actually through reading a lot, because yes, learning about the religion, you just do get this, romanticized again image, but it's only when I was actually reading, and because I was comfortable reading different books, it didn't really shock me. But unfortunately, when you go to certain lectures, they won't really cover it or don't talk about it. And again, especially they're speaking amongst adults, it's like, no, we can't talk about this. We can't talk about that. And I'm just thinking, who are you afraid of? I was always quite perplexed by that. So I'm glad that now, like the work that you're doing, and not necessarily bring out open, but contextualize it for people, because I think a lot of people do have these doubts or misunderstandings. So again, I think the work that you're doing, and like I said, with your platform, people should definitely, hopefully, subscribe, listen, and do they have to? Because I know you mentioned it's an interactive experience. There are some people that are more, you could say, passive learners as opposed to wanting to, are people required to to interact, or can they just listen and digest it? Because they're two different. Yeah, there's different types of ways of learning. I just want to can you clarify that for people who maybe just want to listen and hear what other people say, or is there a requirement for people to talk and maybe give a presentation or what have you? Can you just touch on that as well, please?
Cool. So we have tiers. I've got 3 tiers. There's a high tier which requires group work and panel discussions. The other tiers are not. I mean, you can be passive throughout the whole program because every unit, every experience is recorded. It's edited, very high film quality actually. It's almost cinematic, to be frank with you. It's a cinematic experience. So it's an entertainment format, and you can watch it on replay anytime you like, through the app, through the website. The reason why it's live is because for those who do want to have interaction, it gives them the opportunity. I don't like just providing pre-recordings and not giving any other alternative avenues for people to indulge and to explore. So the recording is available literally within 24 hours of the live session, and it's on. So through the app, through the website, resources we provide as well, downloadable resources. So you have the opportunity, therefore, to watch it whenever you feel like it, at your own pace, in your own time. We also have a group on Telegram. So if you watch something that perhaps has stimulated thinking, or you have a question, or you disagree with something, straight away you can put in the group and have a discussion, right? So it's a living environment, and it's an environment in which those who are inquisitive and have passion for history can explore and have real connection with not only myself but the rest of the team. So it's really, I consider it like it's a private club, really. You know, think of it as an international club. Everybody's in there. We've got over 100 people right now across the different tiers, and it is different. It's different in that sense.
Jazakallah khair. I'm just conscious because Maghrib's in now, and I think we've done over an hour. So I'm going to save this. Just closing remarks where people can check out your content. Do you mind just letting people know, and then we'll wrap it up? But yeah, if you can let people know where they can follow you, find out more information, and subscribe to your platform, please.
Yeah, just go to the website, www.historyun.com. Everything is there. You'll see the trailers, you see the content that is available, and you can explore. You can explore, inshallah. So historyun.com. There is also Patreon, which has a lot of free content. A lot of free content. You don't have to subscribe. You just join and benefit, and that will be patreon.com Historyun. Yeah.
Patreon.
So, and if you have no access to these, go to YouTube. We're there as well.
Shukran. And I'll save this and I'll put all of those links and upload again also to my YouTube as well. But Barakallahu Fik, Shukran, AZ. Sorry, I was calling you as before, AZ. Yeah, beneficial knowledge. Thank you for dropping the gems. And yeah, thank you everyone for attending. And again, yeah, please follow up the brother's platform. He's doing great stuff. I'm definitely a big fan. And yeah, I look forward to speaking to you on the next Instagram live. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum. Speak to you soon, brother.
Wa alaikum salam.